Okay, so section 8, the Bolsheviks. All right, this is where it gets serious, ladies and gentlemen. The Bolsheviks are the political party that are the engine behind what is now left of the Russian Revolution, and they morph into the Soviet Union later down the line. And they're led by their famous leader, Vladimir Lenin. Okay, and what they are after is a quick, rapid workers' revolution. Okay, remember the Marxists, the communists, they believed in a two-step revolution. That first of all you have your king, your monarch, and he gets booted out by a bourgeois revolution. The factory owners, the businessmen, the professionals, the fat cats, they will take over and they will run the country. When that has been achieved, the second stage of revolution is your workers' revolution. That's when you achieve true communism, if you like. Now, at this stage, most Russians are happy with what they've got. They're happy with the February Revolution. They're happy they've had the bourgeois revolution. And they don't really want to go much further. The Petrograd Soviet is controlled by a group called the Mensheviks, not the Bolsheviks. And the Mensheviks are a lot more cautious. They're saying, right, we've done stage 1, great stuff, let's now wait a little bit before stage 2. Lenin's not like that at all. He comes into the picture after having been in hiding in Switzerland. He gets kicked out of Russia before this, the Tsar kicks him out. And he's in Switzerland and he jumps into the Germans basically sneak him into a train. He goes all the way through to Germany. From Germany, goes up to Sweden. Actually, when he's in Sweden, he stops at the Savoy Hotel in Malmö in Sweden. I've been there myself. I've sat in the same restaurant that Lenin sat in. It was very exciting. And he then jumps back on the train, goes up to Sweden, and he sneaks into Finland, which is controlled by Russia, and from there works his way down to Petrograd. And he jumps off the train and he gives this famous speech where he announces what's called he announces his plan. Okay, now his plan has a name. It's called the April Thesis, right? April because he writes in April, thesis because a thesis is a plan, basically, right? And he says, we're going to do all these things. He says, number 1, we're going to skip the bourgeois revolution. We've done that now. We're going to go straight to the workers' revolution, okay? Mensheviks horrified by this. And that's what he says they'll do. Number 2, he says, we can't work with the Mensheviks because they're too slow. They're revolutionaries, but they're too slow. We're Bolsheviks, we're faster. We want to push this thing quicker. 3, nationalize all land and property. So all businesses, all farms, all everything should come under the control of the government. Okay, now this is obviously going to upset the bourgeois class, the professionals, the business owners who've just had their revolution and they're feeling quite good about themselves at the minute. And then suddenly Lenin comes in and says, right, we're skipping your revolution straight to my revolution. You've lost all your land. Sorry, guys. Lost all your companies, all your profits. So that's not very popular as far as the bourgeois are concerned. And he says we need an end to the provisional government and the Bolsheviks should be in charge. Big, bold stuff. But not instantly very popular. Like I said, the Mensheviks control the Petrograd Soviet, not the Bolsheviks. More people prefer the Mensheviks at this stage. But Lenin and, at this stage, his kind of friend called Trotsky, they have a very difficult relationship, these two, but Lenin and his other Bolshevik called Trotsky, they work very hard to promote the Bolsheviks, okay? They publish a lot of different newspapers, they're very good at advertising and propaganda, and they come up with a great slogan, bread, peace and land, basically saying to the peasants, we'll feed you, we'll stop the war, and we'll give you some land that you've never had before, right? So very attractive, uses the power of 3 for you English students out there. Very catchy slogan. And to give them a bit of muscle, what they do is they recruit their own mini army, call them the Red Guard. They're factory workers that they give weapons to and give some military training. And these guys are kind of like the heavies, the thugs that sort of protect the Bolsheviks and promote their ideas. Right, so that's what's happened. Lenin's jumped into Russia and with the Bolsheviks saying we need a faster revolution, and they're working hard to get more popular. Right, now events take over, okay? The provisional government, like we said in the last lesson, tried this June offensive against Germany, and it failed miserably. You've got 2 million Russians basically run away from the front line. They're streaming back to their houses, and they're stopping off at Petrograd. So Petrograd, the city, is swarming with angry, disappointed soldiers with their weapons who want to get rid of the provisional government, blame them. The Bolsheviks see an opportunity. They team up with them and they say, right, let's get rid of the provisional government. Let's start this revolution properly. But they are stopped. They are stopped by the Mensheviks. Okay? The Mensheviks split off away from the Petrograd Soviet, and they kind of join the provisional government. And they combined with their forces, their armies, they stop the Bolsheviks in Petrograd. They get arrested, they get put in prison. Trotsky is put in prison, and Lenin is forced to run away to Finland. So it looks at this point like the Bolsheviks are done and dusted. Lenin had his chance and he blew it. Who was responsible for this? A man called Kerensky. Kerensky was a very popular politician in Russia, probably the most popular politician in the provisional government. And he takes all credit for beating the Bolsheviks. He says, look at me, I beat the Bolsheviks. And on that popularity, he becomes the leader of the national government. So basically at this stage, he is the leader of Russia. So things are looking good for Kerensky, and he wants to make sure that things remain good for him, and he knows he has to win the war. Okay, the Tsar failed, the national government failed before. He said, I can't possibly fail. I need this to win. I need this to work. So he gets a new army general called Kornilov. He says, right, you're in charge of the army, go win this war for me. But very, very quickly, Kerensky and Kornilov start to argue. They don't get on, and Kornilov betrays Kerensky. He says, I've had enough of this guy, tell me what to do. And he turns the army around and marches towards Petrograd. And it looks like the army is going to do what's called a coup, take over the country, take over the government. And Kornilov could become the new leader of Russia. Kerensky panics. He's running around Petrograd trying to find enough soldiers, enough weapons to protect the city and stop Kornilov's army. At this stage, he makes a big mistake. He looks around, he hasn't got enough men, he hasn't got enough soldiers. And so he looks into the prisons, looks into the jails, and says to the Bolsheviks, come fight for me. I'll let you out. I'll give you your weapons back, so long as you protect the city. Of course the Bolsheviks agree. Absolutely, Kerensky. Thank you. Of course we'll defend the city. And so he lets them out. But they're not needed, because as Kornilov's army is approaching Petrograd, the railway unions that are loyal to Kerensky shut down all the trains. Now Russia is very, very big. Without the trains, the army is not ever going to reach Petrograd. So Kornilov's attempt to take over fails basically because he can't catch a train. The trains aren't running, right? Kerensky is saved. Hurrah, you might think. But this doesn't work out well for Kerensky in the end, because at this point he has just lost all that popularity that he had. He's embarrassed himself. He looks stupid because he's gone from this guy that got rid of the Bolsheviks, looking all powerful, and now suddenly he's weak. He's let the Bolsheviks back out of jail. He's given them weapons, and they're still on the streets, and he just looks foolish. And so that is what happens. That's where we're at. And we'll look at what happens next lesson. So this is section 8. Complete the questions at the end and complete the task on the next slide. Okay, hope it helps.